In a rugged town filled with dust and danger, there lived a young bounty hunter named Jake. He was not just any bounty hunter. He was skilled and quick, known for his sharp instincts and determination. At just 18, Jake had already captured several outlaws, proving his worth to the townsfolk. Each capture brought him closer to earning respect and recognition. Yet, deep inside, Jake felt the weight of expectation pressing down on him. He longed to show that he was more than just a boy playing at being a hero. Jake spent his days training, honing his skills with his trusty lasso and revolver. He would often ride out into the open range, tracking animals and practicing his aim. With every sunset painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Jake dreamed of adventures that would make his father proud. His father had once been a legendary bounty hunter, but he disappeared long ago, leaving behind stories of bravery and daring. As news of a notorious outlaw spread through the town, Jake felt a spark of excitement. This was his chance. The outlaw had racked up a long list of crimes, and the reward for capturing him was enough to change Jake's life forever. He knew this job could finally prove that he was ready to step into the shoes of greatness. One afternoon, while Jake was polishing his lasso at the town's small saloon, a group of local lawmen burst in, their faces grim and serious. They gathered everyone's attention and announced details about a dangerous outlaw named Colt Maverick, who had recently terrorized neighboring towns. Colt was known for his quick draw and ruthless tactics, leaving a path of chaos wherever he went. The reward for his capture was substantial, almost enough to change Jake's life forever. Excited whispers filled the room as people shared stories about Colt's deeds. But Jake felt only determination rising within him. This could be his moment, the chance to catch a notorious criminal and prove he was worthy of respect and admiration. As the lawman detailed Colt's last known whereabouts, Jake's mind raced with possibilities. He quickly made up his mind. He would track down this outlaw and bring him to justice. After the meeting ended, Jake approached one of the lawmen and asked for more information. They mentioned that Colt often hid in the hills just outside of town, favoring an abandoned mine as a hideout. With adrenaline pumping through his veins, Jake left the saloon, ready to begin his pursuit and step closer to achieving his dream. With a clear goal in mind, Jake set out into the sun-drenched streets of the town, the weight of his mission fueling his every step. He began by visiting the local sheriff's office, hoping to gather more information about Colt Maverick's recent activities. The sheriff, a weary but wise man, handed Jake a worn map marked with places where Colt had been seen. "Be careful out there, kid," he warned. "He's not just fast, he's dangerous." Jake thanked the sheriff and went on to talk with townsfolk at the general store. He asked questions and listened closely as people shared their stories of encounters with Colt. Some described him as charming but deadly, while others spoke of his quick escapes. Each piece of information added to Jake's understanding, building a clearer picture of the outlaw. As he gathered clues, Jake felt a surge of excitement. He learned that Colt had been spotted near an old abandoned mine on the outskirts of town. This information sent Jake's heart racing. It was a promising lead. With determination in his eyes, he mounted his horse and rode toward the mine, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead in his pursuit of justice. As Jake rode toward the abandoned mine, the air around him felt thick with tension. Each sound, the rustling of leaves, the distant caw of a crow, heightened his anticipation. He struggled to keep his focus, reminding himself of the goal ahead, but thoughts of Colt Maverick lingered. What had driven this outlaw to a life of crime? Arriving at the mine, Jake dismounted and cautiously approached the entrance, peering inside to find darkness looming. However, as he explored the area, he stumbled upon remnants of Colt's past. Old wanted posters scattered on the ground and faded articles describing his daring escapes from lawmen. One article caught Jake's eye. It detailed a legendary showdown between Colt and his former partner, a tale that had become folklore among the townspeople. The article mentioned a tragic betrayal that had led to Colt's fall from grace, revealing pieces of his story that made Jake curious. Could there be more to Colt than met the eye? With each clue he unraveled, Jake felt an unsettling connection building, a sense that this outlaw was intertwined with stories from his own childhood. The deeper he dug, the more he questioned if capturing Colt would lead him to a truth he wasn't prepared for. As Jake continued to explore the mine, he noticed a small wooden chest tucked away in a dark corner, almost hidden by the shadows. His heart raced with curiosity as he opened it, revealing items that made his breath catch in his throat. Inside were old photographs, a weathered hat, and a leather-bound journal, possessions that belonged to none other than his father. Memories flooded back to him, images of his father telling thrilling stories of his own adventures as a bounty hunter. Jake's hands trembled as he picked up the journal, flipping through the pages filled with notes and sketches. One entry caught his eye. It described Colt Maverick, not just as an outlaw but as a man who had once been close to his father. The words painted a picture of friendship turned sour, filled with regret and betrayal. Jake's pulse quickened as he processed this unexpected connection. Doubts crept in, twisting his thoughts about his mission. Was he really hunting down a criminal? Or was he chasing after the shadow of someone who had been part of his father's past? The weight of the discovery pressed heavily on him, forcing Jake to reconsider everything he thought he knew about Colt and the legacy of his own father. With a mix of anxiety and determination, Jake made his way deeper into the mine, following the echoes of distant sounds. He had heard rumors of Colt Maverick lurking within, and each step brought him closer to the truth he so desperately sought. As he rounded a dark corner, Jake froze in shock. There, illuminated by the faint light filtering through the cracks, stood Colt Maverick. But the figure before him was more than just an outlaw. It was his father. Time had weathered him, his once youthful face now lined with years of hardship, but Jake recognized those familiar eyes instantly. "Dad?" he whispered, disbelief flooding his mind. Colt turned slowly, surprise etched on his features as he looked at his son. "Jake? How did you find me?" The emotions swirled between them. Relief, anger, and confusion. Jake's heart raced as questions tumbled into his thoughts. Why had his father become an outlaw? What had happened to lead him down this path? In that moment, the mission to capture Colt transformed into a desperate need to understand. The lines between hunter and hunted blurred as Jake faced not just an outlaw but the father he thought he had lost forever. The silence in the mine felt heavy as Jake and Colt stood face to face, emotions swirling around them like dust in the air. "Why, Dad?" Jake finally asked, his voice trembling. "Why did you leave us? Why become an outlaw?" Colt looked down, pain etched across his features. "I never wanted this life for you," he began, his voice thick with regret. "After I disappeared, I thought I could protect you and your mother by staying away. But things spiraled out of control. Betrayal led me here. Outlaws don't choose this life. It chooses them." Jake's heart ached as he listened to his father's story. He felt the weight of lost years and unmet expectations pressing down on him. "I wanted to find you to understand," Jake admitted. "I thought I could bring you in and make things right." "I was a fool," Colt replied softly, looking directly into Jake's eyes. "I thought running would keep you safe, but it only hurt us more." In that moment, the anger turned to understanding as both father and son shared their struggles, the choices that had led them to this fateful meeting. The past could not be changed, but maybe together they could forge a new path forward, one filled with redemption and hope. As the weight of their conversation settled around them, Jake felt a conflict tearing at his heart. He had spent years training to be a skilled bounty hunter, driven by the desire to capture outlaws and earn respect. But now, standing in front of Colt, he was faced with an impossible choice. The man he had been taught to pursue was not just an outlaw. He was his father, the very person Jake had longed to find. His mind raced with conflicting emotions. Duty and loyalty battled within him. Capturing Colt would fulfill his mission and bring him the recognition he sought, yet it would also mean betraying the father he had just begun to understand. "I don't want to turn you in," Jake finally admitted, his voice shaking. "But the law, they'll be looking for you." Colt's expression softened, and he stepped closer. "I know I've done wrong, but I'm still your dad. We can change things together." The plea in his father's eyes struck Jake deeply, igniting hope and fear at once. Caught between two worlds, Jake struggled to see a way forward. Could he reconcile his duties as a bounty hunter with his love for his father? The answer remained elusive as they stood together in the shadows of the mine, both longing for redemption but unsure of what it would take to achieve it. As the silence stretched between them, Colt took a deep breath, searching for the right words to explain his choices. "Jake, I never wanted to be an outlaw," he began, his voice heavy with remorse. "After your mother and I separated, I thought I could protect you by staying away, but in doing so I fell in with the wrong crowd." He paused, looking into Jake's eyes as if trying to convey the weight of his regret. "I got caught up in a life that led me down dark paths. I saw things, terrible things. I believed that by becoming this outlaw, I could keep you safe from my mistakes." Jake listened intently, feeling the pain of his father's words wash over him. "But what about me? What about all those years without you?" Jake replied, frustration bubbling within him. Colt looked down, shame evident on his face. "I know it doesn't make sense now, but I thought if I stayed hidden and became a ghost, you would have a better life without my shadow hanging over you." As Colt spoke, Jake felt a mix of anger and understanding. His father's desire to protect him had only pushed them further apart. Yet in that moment of vulnerability, Jake saw not just an outlaw but a man filled with remorse and a longing for connection. A chance for healing in their fractured relationship. As the weight of their conversation hung in the air, Jake's heart raced with uncertainty. He found himself at a crossroads. Turn his father in for the bounty and fulfill his duty as a bounty hunter, or help Colt escape and start anew. The lawmen would soon come searching, and Jake knew time was running out. "Dad, if I turn you in, it's not just your life that's affected," Jake said, his voice shaking. "What about mine? What about everything I've worked for?" Colt looked at him with a mixture of desperation and hope, pleading silently for understanding. "I can't go back to that life," Colt replied earnestly. "I need you to trust me. Together we can leave this behind. We could find a place where the past doesn't haunt us." The idea tugged at Jake's heart, awakening dreams he had buried deep under the pressure of expectations. But doubt crept in. Would helping Colt mean abandoning everything he had trained for? As he weighed their options against each other, the thrill of catching an outlaw versus the chance to rebuild their shattered bond, Jake felt torn between two worlds. In that moment of clarity, he realized that the choice wasn't just about his father. It was about what kind of man he wanted to become. After a long moment of silence, Jake took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his decision settle in his chest. He looked into Colt's eyes and saw not just an outlaw, but a father who was desperate for redemption. "I can't turn you in, Dad," Jake finally said, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside him. "I believe we can start fresh, but it has to be together." Colt's expression softened with gratitude and relief. They both understood that this choice was more than just escaping the law. It was about rebuilding their relationship and finding a way to heal the wounds of the past. As they prepared to leave the mine behind, Jake felt a sense of liberation washing over him. He was no longer just a bounty hunter chasing after a name. He was a son reclaiming his father. Together, they made their way through the darkness of the mine and into the light of a new dawn. The path ahead would not be easy, but Jake was determined to face it with loyalty and love guiding him forward. They shared their hopes for a better future, affirming that while the scars of their past would always remain, they had each other to lean on. In that moment of unity, they embraced the possibility of redemption and a second chance at life together. As they rode away from the mine, Jake reflected on the journey that had brought him to this pivotal moment. The dusty road stretched ahead of them, a symbol of the challenges they had faced and those still to come. In choosing loyalty and love over duty, he had learned that being a true hero sometimes meant making the hardest decisions of all. It was not just about capturing outlaws or chasing glory. It was about understanding the complexities of human relationships and finding the courage to forgive. Jake glanced at Colt, whose once-worn eyes now sparkled with hope for a second chance. He realized that real strength lay in vulnerability, the willingness to confront one's past and seek redemption. As they made their way into an uncertain future, Jake felt a renewed sense of purpose. He was no longer merely following in the footsteps of his legendary father, but carving his own path. With each mile they traveled together, Jake understood that their bond could help them navigate life's twists and turns. They were writing a new story, one filled with forgiveness, growth, and love. It was a journey worth taking, hand in hand, as they embraced both the scars and promise of tomorrow.